Friends, today we're going to break down the game Sniper. This is a game that suddenly really took off quite well. We took certain actions and now we're carefully deciding what to do next. Enjoy! If you want to scale up and get published, go to the cast.ai website and fill out the publishing form. If you simply want to monetize your game, please go to the cas.ai website and fill out the mediation form. Misha, as the host of this project, the floor is yours. Tell us more.
So the project is currently from one of the leading companies in the industry. Right now, the project is undergoing a major code overhaul. Yesterday, we rolled out an update, built it, and the release went live. But right now, Google hasn't approved this build yet. We rolled it out to 10%. We're currently waiting for the validation process to go through. Meanwhile, we're also cleaning up bugs that resulted from previous changes. Overall, the project is showing strong payback metrics. As for the main retention rate metrics, the day one player return rate is currently at 20%. On day 7, the percentage is 4%, and on day 14, the percentage is 2%. On average, players typically spend approximately 15 minutes in our game with an average of about 8 minutes per day, which means that they usually play around 2 separate sessions. Over the past 2 months, we have had 100,000 players actively playing the game every single day. Here's what our level funnel looks like. Only about 27% of players actually complete 9 levels, with the majority of players dropping off within the first 10 levels.
What really stands out to me is the big drop-off between Step 4 and Step 5. Subscribe to the Cast AI channel and hit the bell so you don't miss out on monetization strategies and tips from the world of mobile games.
There are also these significant drop-offs at certain levels. Also, to be honest, we haven't really started working on it yet, since we're currently rewriting the code from scratch. Specifically, what I did when I took on the project was to improve the tutorial and carefully adjust the levels to enhance the overall experience. I also analyzed the main competitors, primarily Legend Hunt, and based the level design on that thorough analysis. So these are already metrics that have been improved and enhanced after the test. Yes, there are such drop-offs and we plan to work on them in the future. Now, once we roll out this version, thoroughly test it, and fix all the bugs we encounter, we'll also begin working on those issues as well.
Let's bring our colleagues up to speed. We took on a project notable for its very specific legacy.
Yes, from the coding side, it was actually very difficult and quite challenging to make any changes, adjustments, or to modify the different modes. The easiest thing to do was to make adjustments to the overall balance without any issues. But any feature, even a small one, like changing the crosshair or some movement, would have a painful impact on the project and cause a bunch of bugs to pop up. Overall, making any changes took an exceptionally long time. In practice, even the smallest feature change could take 4 to 5 hours.
The point is, we bought this project. If I understand correctly, it was originally written in some kind of strange hybrid. Correct me if I'm wrong.
There was a mix of all sorts of things in there, part Unity, part PHP. It's truly a real Frankenstein. It was a total Frankenstein monster. Alexei was right, making even the smallest changes, adding any seemingly simple feature, even just at the level design stage, meant a complete overhaul of everything. So we decided it would be easier to just redo everything at once, so that later we could make small fixes as needed.
And as of today, at the time of our meeting, we've recently released a version where, as far as I am currently aware, only memories of PHP remain for the most part.
So going forward, yes, we'll also be working on the playability of the first levels, fine-tuning them, looking for the best options, and combining different approaches.
Everything I showed you today, dear viewers and friends, we looked at using AppMagic. This is one of our partners who helps us analyze games in terms of user acquisition and SDKs, and they offer a lot of interesting features. Highly recommended, really wonderful team. Reach out if you need a link.
Moving on to ad monetization specifically, each individual player goes through a cycle of 25 banner ad views, 8 full minutes of traffic, and 3 rewarded video ads. In terms of the total revenue generated for the last month for September, in-app purchases make up only about 1% of the total amount overall. But overall, the main thing is that each user brings in 14 cents. What was done previously? Balance changes and adjustments were made through A/B testing, specifically and particularly regarding the overall difficulty of progression. The enemies were made stronger and harder. Also, players were given very little XP. There were various tweaks to health and attack balance. Somehow, this didn't have a positive effect. In some cases, it even made the metrics worse. So, to put it simply, these kinds of tests don't work. Well, even before I officially joined the team and after I came onto this project, there were some notable changes made to the level design. Various important level design elements were thoughtfully added, such as different types of icons, special locks, certain enemy behaviors, and also changes to the levels themselves. For example, this included adding more enemies and increasing the number of transitions between points within a level. These adjustments were implemented to further enhance the overall gameplay experience. All of this had a positive impact, so the changes in level design over this entire period have been beneficial for the overall project as a whole.
I'd like to add, if I may, first of all, that when we took on the project, it didn't look particularly good or successful. And even now, when we're talking about a 20% retention rate, that's usually not something we would take on for publishing. And it all started with the fact that our day one retention rate on Android was, I think, around 15 to 17%. But nevertheless, our team, thanks in no small part to the marketing department, managed to pull the project up, and now it's showing pretty good metrics. Oleg started out with this project, then Mikhail took it over. But in any case, the first thing is of course the PHP, which probably still haunts the programmer. We say there's nothing left of it, but the programmer's eye still twitches.
Why did you decide to take on a project with such dismal numbers in the first place?
It was relatively inexpensive and fit our metrics very well. We took it on for, let's say, several times less than what we now make per month in advertising revenue. We can afford to scale it up, primarily thanks to our consistently high-quality creatives.
First of all, classically, you can see from the retention rate that there's a loss of interest in the game. I think this is primarily related to the challenge present at each level. A certain routine sets in, so as you all played somewhere around level 10, give or take, everything starts to feel the same. The same people are running around and you shoot them, sometimes some new objects or new traps are added, but I feel like that's generally not enough. There's no real challenge. At one point, I did an experiment. I replayed the game using just the very basic pistol and silencer, and I was still able to just walk around and kill everyone the same way. I died very rarely. The game, in terms of UX and UI, never really directed me to the shop to upgrade, buy new things, or try different weapons, even though the progress bar at the end of each level suggests I'm about to unlock something new. Still, I was never pushed to experiment with new weapons, though I think that could have been a good point. And for this kind of game, I think the shop actually looks really bare bones. There are literally just a couple of items to buy in each category, really. There's very little weaponry for sale now, especially for ads. Overall, the shop could definitely be expanded because I think for games like this, progression is important. We all love growing numbers and skins. This game is truly fertile ground for customizing everything. Even the final bullet that flies out and finishing moves are implemented well, so there's lots of room for experimentation. There can be decals flying off when you shoot. You can repaint the guns themselves, change your character's outfit, and completely change the skin to resemble something trendy or reminiscent of something else. So I think there's a pretty big space for experimentation here. Plus, we have one boss fight. By the way, it really stood out compared to everything else. Well, or maybe there are several, but at least I remember one. It really stands out from the flow of the levels. This bulky guy, bulky as in heavily armored, kept running back and forth. It was interesting to have a shootout with him. He was tough. He provoked strong emotions. I think these are things we need to develop further. So we have some decent beginnings in level design, like firing a machine gun from a helicopter at an army or getting through, well, maybe not really figuring it out, but there are some subtle hints at. There's a bit of a puzzle element, how to get through the level, like shooting out the camera first, taking out a guard, and then, well, basically shooting the enemies in a certain order. These are all great things we need to develop, and I think that's the direction we're going to move.
Subscribe to our channel and hit the bell so you don't miss out on any of the latest game dev news or exciting new case studies from our world.
If you don't mind, I'll go ahead and start. I've already gotten pretty accustomed to this project, so honestly, I don't really have all that much to say. First of all, the project basically doesn't have any meta. It's there, but it's kind of not. The player doesn't see it. As Anton said, you really get hooked on the core. You just keep playing and playing, but the game doesn't lead you anywhere. You can actually exit to the menu yourself or risk dropping out just to see what else is in the game. There is progression, yes. When you play through, gain experience and get some rewards. It's not entirely clear what it actually does, what those stars are for. It's unclear why you should really spend coins because upgrading weapons actually doesn't really do much. For the first 20 levels, you still kill everyone with a single shot, and overall there isn't really any meta to speak of. And that's why the core suffers a lot. I'd also add that the UI is a bit tired and outdated. I think it needs to be refreshed, especially in the store. It should look more attractive and appealing. Most likely, this isn't the very first change that needs to be made, but it should be taken into account. As for the core, the game feels a bit cheap. Well, not just feels, it actually looks cheap. And considering that the project is now being moved to a new engine, it will be easier to work with it there. I'd probably like to see the animations made a bit smoother somehow, because it's actually really noticeable that the character moves at one speed, but the legs move at a slightly different speed. You can actually see that the character slides a bit when moving. The camera turns are abrupt. For example, there's a moment when the character walks in one direction, then suddenly turns 90 or even 180 degrees, and the camera really jerks around. It's unpleasant to watch. I'll also say something about the levels in general. I think I only just realized this now. It hadn't occurred to me before, but most likely having the boss on level 11 is too late. First of all, there are 10 levels before that. They are varied, of course. Sometimes you're shooting from a helicopter, sometimes you need to drop something or blow something up, sometimes it's just regular shooting, but overall, they play very similarly. And I think it would have been interesting to see some actual scenarios here, especially with the boss. Anton mentioned that fighting the boss was a bit more interesting. Yes, it was a bit more interesting, but I was still bored. So the boss is just a big bullet sponge that you can shoot at, and he doesn't pose any real threat to you. I think it would be more interesting if the fight, for example, had 2 or 3 phases, where you'd have to move around, change your position, switch weapons, and do different things in each phase. For instance, in one phase you shoot at the boss, in the next phase he's not vulnerable to gunfire, and you have to shoot at certain objects to lure him out or something like that. And accordingly, about the regular level, I can say the same thing. I guess I'd like to see a bit more variety. And I'll also add something about switching weapons. It's a cool feature, but I only changed weapons a couple of times and then didn't see any point in doing it again. I went through the first 2 locations just using the pistol. It was actually more interesting for me to shoot at distant targets with the pistol. It was kind of, I guess more amusing. When I was shooting with the pistol, I actually felt more like a sniper than when I used the sniper rifle, because with the pistol you really have to aim and carefully line up the sights with your finger, while with the sniper rifle you just...
The game is called Sniper, and it kind of implies that you're supposed to quietly take out enemies with the sniper rifle. But, like I said, if I switch weapons, for some reason they immediately start to notice me. So maybe it's some kind of bug. I let him walk by, he passes, he doesn't care about me at all. But as soon as I switch weapons, he suddenly senses my presence, so to speak. This is really quite annoying because there are definitely moments when several different enemies are standing far away from you, and I finally want to use the sniper rifle. But the moment I aim, I see them almost immediately turn around and quickly start shooting right at me. It kind of ruins the whole point. And the weapon switching itself honestly seemed really strange to me. It just feels like there should simply be the same icon below, but with the sniper rifle instead. I want it, and I switch to it. That way, it would be clear that I actually have a sniper rifle. And I can use it for whatever purpose I have in mind.
I would also suggest that in situations where there's that little pistol icon with a small circle in the bottom right corner, make that small circle noticeably bigger and put the sniper rifle in it, so it's at least a bit clearer what's actually going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't quite agree that it's better to put the button in the top left, because that's not very convenient for tapping. You have to use your other hand and press in the top left to switch weapons.
Next point. At the start of the mission, I was only shown this screen once initially, like for some specific purpose. It was actually cool that this feature exists, but first, it's not enough. It didn't change for me during 11 missions, and it felt like something was broken. That was my first impression. It seemed to me that it even looked the same as the regular enemies. So I had the feeling that I had already killed hundreds of these Williams, and I got an idea. We have this really boring and uninteresting maximum loading screen, and in some games, they actually do what we could just do, like in Metal Gear Solid, where the loading is right here, and during the loading process, there's helpful information displayed for the player to see and read. And when basically the loading finishes, at the end it just says tap to continue. So while the loading is happening, I read the mission objective. For each mission, you could write a brief objective, like sabotage, information gathering, if it's that kind of case, or something like that.
At the very least, just changing the loading screen is really easy to do.
It's not just that you can do it, it's what needs to be done. Consider this a request from marketing. If you want to expand and get published, go to the Cast.ai website and fill out the publishing form. If you just want to monetize your game, go to the Cast.ai website and fill out the mediation form.
Probably the last thing I'd like to add really is that the NPCs look really dumb. Basically, they don't move much, they just stand there like turrets. And if you happen to startle someone, or if they happen to notice you, they simply turn around. Not like real people would, but more like stationary turrets. This was especially obvious to me during the mission where you're flying a helicopter and shooting at enemies with machine guns. They just stand there, completely motionless, and wait for their inevitable death. I agree that it would definitely be nice to add a shop. We have a silenced pistol, but not the sniper rifle. Both have the same accuracy at different ranges. So it kind of makes killing distant enemies with the sniper rifle pointless, since you can just shoot 2 or 3 times with the pistol before the enemy turns around and he'll be dead.
Thank you very much. Subscribe to the Cast.ai channel and hit the bell so you don't miss out on monetization strategies and case studies from the world of mobile games.